This is the examination of the hidden human condition.
You're listening to the Hidden Killers Podcast.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi.
We are talking with retired FBI Special Agent, Chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program, Robin Dreeke, today. And Robin, I want to talk about the school shooting that happened in Nashville last week. We don't talk about school shootings all that much on this program. Quite honestly, there's almost too many to keep up with, as horrible as that is. But what I want to talk about specifically on this one is the focus that everyone seems to be putting on it while it's still in the news cycle, kind of. And even by now, it's kind of out of the news cycle. But it really kind of bothered me that the big thing everyone was going at was this is a trans person that committed the shooting. I don't know that that really has anything to do with another person committing a murder or a school shooting. Tell me, does that play any role in what we saw last week with this horrible crime being committed?
You know, there's, as you said, there's a lot of consistencies in this. At the same time, there's a few things that make it a little bit different. And boy, I was really thinking about this before the show today. And you know, the most tired statement I'm sure that you're tired of, and I think the world is tired of, and you said it right there.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers?
No, not just that. Searching for a motive.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're always searching for a motive. But you know, and you kind of hit on it there as well, Tony. The motive's always the same.
Yeah.
The motive is always the same, and that is someone is feeling disenfranchised. They're in pain. They're a wound collector. They see themselves as victims, and it escalates, and they act out. And that's always been the motive, because healthy people don't do these things. No. Now, that being said, this one, I think it's going to be about the same. You know, there's been attention played to the transgender role in this just because it's different, but what that looks like to the individual is the same. You know, there's some sort of pain and trauma, and it can be from that, or being bullied on a playground, or getting fired from work. It's all going to be the same and how it manifests inside the individual. The thing I'm finding interesting about this one, sadly so, is because, again, there's not much out there on the individual, but I did read a few things where, you know, someone that knew her when she was younger, you know, as being the sweet little girl and very loving, very caring. So it's something, when you see patterns like that earlier in life, means that there's either something going on internally that was being hidden, mm-hmm. or there's something that traumatically happened that most people are unaware of. So because something had to happen to shift. And then when you throw in there, the other thing that is also very common, all these things, is some sort of mental illness. So it just makes it a tragedy. But now here's what I think is really interesting about all these things, because, again, as tired as we get of looking for motive, and the motives always stay the same, and we can't seem to really do anything about those.
Yeah.
I was really asking myself, what changes each time? The response. And so I like focusing on when we see success in keeping things from getting even worse, because, you know, she had a map. Apparently there's other locations she was going to go to. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was planned out. And the brave act of those officers moving with speed, with intent, that is what the difference here was. And I think that's, you know, something that we can really model, as opposed to other situations that have transpired in the last couple of years.
Well, I mean, it's been very interesting the last couple of years, especially the Uvalde, Texas
that's
shooting,
what I was referring to,
where there was literally hundreds of officers standing outside and not going in. I mean, I could scream on that for days, but it doesn't change what happened. The officers in this case, they didn't even have an officer at the school. Yet they got in there much quicker than even sometimes the school officers do when they're on scene, and they went in and they took care of the problem immediately. So yes, more power to them, and I think that they were very brave and they completely did the right thing. What I am struggling with here a little bit, and I'm sure a lot of parents are, if you pay attention to any of this stuff, especially when it's kids of your children's age, it's more relatable, as it would be for anybody. Yeah. I have a 10-year-old little girl who has been doing homeschooling this year by her choice. She wanted to keep doing that, so we kept doing that. But next year she wants to go back. And, honestly, it has been kind of a nice thing not to have on my shoulders, right, on my stress radar of every day sending her to school, thinking and having that little worry about her coming back in a body bag. I know Tracy Walder, who I had on the show the other week, we had the same sentiments back and forth because we both have children around that age. And it was like she had mentioned when she went to Iraq, her parents were worried that she would come back in a body bag, but it was Iraq. It was a little more understandable that could be a real possibility. We shouldn't have to feel this way sending our children off to school. And we always do the same damn thing. Oh, this is horrible, thoughts and prayers, and then we debate guns for a little bit, and then we talk about maybe getting a little more security here and there, what could prevent it, and then it happens again. Right. I don't profess to know the answer to any of this or how to stop this or change this, other than there maybe needs to be some sort of massive shift in the value of mental health help and maybe required mental health help in our society, which it is often not. It has to be that person that wants to get it. Where do you see any of this ever going in terms of improving? Will this ever improve in the United States, in your opinion?
Yes, great question. One that so many of us ponder all the time, and also extremely poignant observations, Tony, and I completely agree. The definition of crazy is doing the same thing again and again, expecting different results, and that is what we're doing with people, trying to attack the gun control issue. If we could have resolved it, would have been resolved. That's just it's to me, we keep looking at the perpetrator, we keep looking at motives, and that hasn't solved the problem. I think kind of some solutions to this are, like you said, let's get the focus back on the mental health wholeheartedly, and also on the types of individuals in training that create officers that run towards a fire. I mean, that officer was a Marine veteran. Mm-hmm. Obviously, when you're looking at them clearing that building, these officers had what I call in life reps. They moved with intent. They had as much intent on doing what they needed to do as the shooter had, which is exactly what you need to do. So I think if we shift the focus to what we can do something about right now, and that is mental health, recognizing pain, doing something about it, and then great training for these first responders, it's not going to solve the problem across the board, but it's going to at least move the needle in a direction that can then allow us to focus on the next thing. If we keep shotgunning, trying to fix everything at the same time, nothing gets fixed. Now, I just came from Denmark, and it's an amazing dichotomy between two societies, and it was really striking me. And this is what I think people really would help them understand the challenge here. In Denmark, it is a very rule-based, following the government mentality. They pay over 50% of their income goes to taxes. There's no guns, and it's the most safe place I've ever seen in my entire life. There's no even trash on the roads, and this is in the capital of Copenhagen. Mm-hmm. But that's the way that society's been for a very long time. It's abhorrent to them to even think about breaking a rule. Meanwhile, our country was founded with a bunch of rule breakers. Yeah. It's in our genetic coding to be skeptical of government. And so attacking it from that angle, it's a long haul. Let's go on what we can move the dial on first, and that is the mental health aspect and the training for our first responders that can act like that.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, we want to criticize the government, yet we want the government to fix this. Right. So when the government, we propose things that have to go through the government of, okay, well, let's legislate this. Let's maybe force some common sense things. No, the government's doing too much, but we need the government to help us fix this. Well, you can't keep biting the hand that's trying to help you fix this. And that it goes in circles and circles. How on earth we get a shift in mental health attitudes? I mean, it's slowly coming. I think generation by generation, we're seeing more value to that and understanding of it. but we still have so far to go.
We do. It's shame based, and that's what the sadness of it is there's still a stigma of shame associated with being weak or being less than, and so people brush it under the carpet and don't want to address it, and it's that's the real tragedy in the entire thing. And going back to the government issue as well, the great challenge there is when you have a free market economy, which is ruled by supply and demand. And a huge part of that economic drive is coming from the sale of these weapons. Mm-hmm. That is part of that problem as well. So it's so many prongs on that one. So that's something I think we need to focus on once we can mitigate other things as well.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast.
The Hidden Killers Podcast.
With Tony Bruski.
Robin Dreeke, retired FBI Special Agent, Chief of the Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program. Thank you, as always, for being a friend. Travel down the road and back. Okay, but for being on the show and giving us your insight. We always appreciate that. You can check out Robin's website at peopleformula.com. My name's Tony Bruski. Stay with us.